You brought up a few interesting points that I wanted to touch on. There was two things specifically.
Sure.
So one, and it's the first thing is a little bit more what you were just talking about. And I just want you to elaborate on that a little bit more. As somebody who fits under what I would say a different, for the lack of a better term, identities, right? You know, for me, I'm a straight black man in America. You know what I mean? So that's my characteristics. You know, for somebody else that might be different. Obviously, we know that these issues are important. You know, as far as dealing with issues of marginalized groups, things like that. I'm totally obviously on board for that because, you know, I've historically I grew up in a very diverse area, you know what I mean, in Michigan. So luckily for me, I was exposed to a lot of different backgrounds, religions, cultures, you know, sexualities. Like, you know, I had gay people at my high school and things like that I was cool with. And, you know, it was never really made to be a big deal, you know, in my era, you know. But that was the area I grew up in. Cause like, if you go, you know, further in Detroit, like in the inner city, you know, it was definitely still, you know, more, I don't know, stereotypical of how the inner city functions, I guess, you know. So I think I was lucky in that sense that I was able to grow up with different types of people and, you know, understanding different people's backgrounds and struggles and things that, you know, are important to them. With all that being said, strategically, when you're trying to get people on board to, you know, because we were talking about voting earlier, when you're trying to get people to vote for a candidate and you think your candidate has the best ideas, what I'm seeing a lot on the left is they're turning off people who agree with a lot of their ideas in the sense of like, because I live in Arizona. I live and work with a lot of, you know, Republicans who overall seem to be socially, I would say, kind of libertarian. Like they may not be quote unquote in agreement with certain lifestyles, quote unquote. Like I don't like that phrasing, but I think you know what I mean by that. But they're still like, but whatever, it's not really my business. And I don't think the government should have anything to do with it. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, that's good enough. You know what I mean? Like, you know, we can work on the other stuff later, but like, that's a good starting point. But then they'll agree with the healthcare. You know, they think we do deserve Medicare for all. They do believe in forgiving student loans. They do think college is too expensive. They think rent's too expensive. They think wages should be kept up with inflation. All of the economic things that lefties tend to fight for, they tend to be in agreement with, especially when you just kind of break down the idea of how it actually would work. So I'm seeing the issue on the left of people leading with, you know, we need to fight for trans rights. We need to make sure that black women are, you know, upheld. And, you know, it's like, yeah, I agree with all of that stuff. But a poor white dude in Kentucky who doesn't know any black people, that doesn't really resonate with him. Like that doesn't make that person racist necessarily. It's just it doesn't resonate with them really at all. Like most people are concerned with what is going on immediately in their circle. So I guess my question is, how do we approach what has been labeled identity politics in a real way to where we can make sure that those groups concerns feel like they're being met, but without alienating people's votes who we actually need if we want to see real power in government?
You connected to class. The thing is that a poor black woman in Minnesota is poor and black, and a woman is connected to class because that's the way the system operates. And so this has to get to a point where a lot of white people need to realize that it's just like the old adage goes, nobody's free until we're all free, right? But if you're seeing that somebody advocating for rights of another marginalized group and it doesn't affect you, this is where solidarity comes in, because solidarity is really standing with people even if it doesn't directly affect you. Because ultimately, when they do better, everybody else will do better too. Connecting into class shows that, and this is why I say getting to know other people of different communities so that you see yourself within them. When it comes to someone like, for instance, Dr. Cornel West, who's running as an independent right now, he will talk about white supremacy as an issue.
Right.
But the thing is that white supremacy is also connected to class, which keeps us as a lower class citizen, those of us who are Black. And so when white people realize this comes to an effect where it's like, oh, well, they're trying to use us as scapegoats, or they're trying to use white people as almost like a buffer between the upper classes to keep the Black people in a lower class so that they can keep us both down. So it's almost like that in-between layer, right? These are white people, then you have the higher classes, and you have Black people in the lower classes. And a lot of white people are in a position where, man, my life sucks, but I'm not Black.
And I'm glad you said that, because I think as a whole, the conversation around white privilege, essentially, that's sort of what you're getting at, has been really lost, specifically because of the word privilege.